Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Let's talk about the data structure, the data setup. Um, so, if we were to look at our data before we actually go short in this New York one session, there's two little distinctions. They're not really that big of a deal, but if we were to go look, this is telling us the high should have been put in at 2000. Is that how you say that? 2000, whatever. And we got it at what, 2030? It's pretty accurate. Um, And then, so now we can see the distinction that we went short first in this New York one pre market area. So if we're to go back over and we're to go look at this, it's going to tell us that it was possible we could have also put it in around 3 a.m. But now that we've got this information, we can start going to see that, this thing is going to continue to reach, right? So it's going to continue to reach into certain levels. How far? We don't exactly know, right? That's why these exist. We're reaching for something. And what are we reaching for? We know what we're reaching for. It's to close out this gap down here. So our next low of day zone, sorry, the gap down here, that's what we're reaching for. So this next low of day zone lines up with this area. All right. So if we're going to gamble this today, which is, we did, we're going to gamble to come down and get this. And then, so we have a couple of things that tell us that this is going to be a tricky setup, but we're probably going to push back to the high side. If we look at our data with just the current setup, there's an 82% chance to get back to the Asia, what we call the Asia mid, which is up here at like 913, 24,913. That's an insane move. All right. So that's a potential. So what do we want to do first? So we know, so now we have to do a bit of wargaming and we have to start saying, okay, well, if we do that, what's going to happen in between? We know we're going to turn this session false. We know we're going to go break the middle of what we call the London here. All right. So we need to go check out what that looks like in our database. All right. So we're going to set it to false and we're going to set London to broken. And we're going to see. So we're going to set this to broken here. And we're going to say that we come back and get this high side here. Whether it happens at the open or not doesn't really matter. We know that we're reaching to the low side. All right. So we're going to jump back in here. Now that tells us that we've got a 90% chance to go hit the Asia mid if we go false. And it's telling us that the high of day might not actually be in. Right? It's telling us that the low of day is going to get put in at the open. Right? And we're going to reach out somewhere in here. So what we're doing is we're playing two statistical areas. We've already pulled well beyond a lot of this. All right. So what we're looking to do is reach out into these zones here, out in this range out here, because we've already gotten all of this. So we know with this pull at the open to go get that gap fill, this is where we're going to go. And that's where this low of day lines up. Beautiful. So we'll short, even if we pop this first, we'll add to it to come down because the idea is we're going to come down and close this gap or at least make a real attempt at it. And then we're going to push all the way back up here to 24,913. And so, let me change something because let's do this. Okay. Anyway, so now we're going to, let's see what else we've got. If we flip back over to our data, now things are changing. All right. The chances of us clearing that low are still 81%, but now the mid is 100% chance. And now the 75% chance to go clear the high. Well, that changes everything for us, right? So what does that tell us? Well, that tells us we're going to, if we're, this was a day to make money if you were brave enough. So we're going to short this down here and then we're going to reverse it all the way back up to this 24,913 area. It's crazy. I don't normally trade this way, but it's kind of hard not to take it because we've got patterns setting up to come get us back up in this range, almost back into these 930 zones. All right, so where do we look for resistance? We got a selling imbalance here, and we've got a few more above us, but we got this 930 in the monthly open and all that. So there's 100% chance to get back to this if this thing goes false. And we're expecting it to because we've got such a high chance to get up here without it being false. Okay, so that's the plan. That was the plan this morning. So we short into the low of day zone, we reverse our trade, and then we take in, we start scaling out as we move up. All right, so we're going to scale out at our statistical targets. We're going to scale out at the London mid break. We're going to, if there's a 930, when the 930 zone sets up, we'll probably scale out there, you know, somewhere in this range. Probably we did scale out in the 930 zone, but anyway, you know, we're going to scale out in the imbalance. We're going to scale out at this 100% chance, and our last target is going to be up here at 913. All right. It was a bit of a complicated setup, but when these complicated setups work out, these are insane paydays. Just insane. All right. So let's start playing through this, and we'll see what we get. All right, we're on 5-minute candles. We could, I don't know, we'll just leave it on 5-minute candles. This is going to be pretty quick because, I mean, you know, it's just kind of what we're doing here. So let's get this thing into 930, which is going to be right about there. So let's get this thing a couple more. All right, and this should be close. Here we go. So here's the 930 candle. There's our 930 zone right here. So we shorted, expecting to maybe add, but that's fine. But when we get down here, we're taking a full position or more, because there is 100% chance if this thing goes false to get here. It would be silly of us not to. Now, if we get knocked out of the trade, if we go sweep these lows and start getting knocked out, it's what it is. This is one of the few days that if we were to reach this point of no return range for deviation for me, that I'd still be looking for longs. All right. But as this thing pulled, we set up a pattern to the downside. We get into our low of day zone. We're trying to hold this. So the point of no return typically is around 6. And we couldn't even reach it. Beautiful. So our long position is right in here. So I think we ended up taking it right here at the high side around 440. No, we took it about 440. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so 440. Right around the high side of this. So now we're looking. So at 440, when we get back up into the 930 zone, that's already 150 handles. Right, so we're scaling in here. All right, so now we'll see how we handle this. So if we look at these 5 to 9 boxes, these blue boxes, we're holding them. We broke back through the middle here. And what we really always want to see is in the first 15 to 20 minutes, we want to see the low get put in. And near the end of that hour, we want to see the high get put in if we're trying to push to the high side. So we want to see this thing push up into our sell imbalance, because we know that that's a target. There's a lot of selling. If we're going to squeeze out that selling, we got to go take it out, reject it, which is common. And what do we want to hold? We want to hold the middle of this hour, 930, and this 5 to 9 box. That's what we want to see. There we go. So we got part of the sell imbalance here. We just barely got into it. Perfect. So now we'll do our rejection, however far that's going to be. We didn't quite on this shark. It's not an exact shark, but we didn't quite on this shark get the 113 yet. But we can expect this thing to pull back roughly 50% to 61.8. So down here to the weekly open. And if it does that, we're not scared. because we know that's how these moves tend to work. Now, because we got this bigger midpoint here, it pushed a little bit more. We can typically expect it to try to push out further, not pull back as far, but sometimes it still does. All right, so in this move, we ended up holding. And so what do? We pop the high of this previous hour. Now, this is typically, we took out the imbalance, and this is typically a setup to pull back. And if you notice on this shark, we got the 113. Right? We nailed the 113, took out the sell imbalance. If you don't know what a shark is, then that's fine too. If you have other levels there, that's great. So now we have to expect the pullback of 50% to 61.8%. So we have to know that this thing could pull back down all the way into this range and sweep the 930 zone. We don't want that. We want it to hold all of this, because if it does, it means this push is strong. But if we pull back, standard market stuff, it's normal. We don't let it shake us out. We start getting shaken out when we start trying to break that 61.8 to come back down to the 786 and the 886, because that means what we're trying to do here, we're trying to come sweep this low. And it is possible. Now, we did close the gap, but we have this move down here. We never completed this move into this low of day zone. So it is entirely possible that we were to come back down there. And that's fine. You know, we've already made however many handles here. You know, what is this? 440? Is that 200 handles? No, it's 300 handles. So, okay, we're down to roughly half a position. So where's our next scale? Our next scale is here at the middle of the 12 hour. Why? Because it's 100% chance and there's a monthly open right above it. You can expect that to cause you a problem. So we'll see if we get our pullback. We don't. And this was a complete fake out move, because anytime you go sweep that hourly high and you set up that to the downside like this, your rejection, if you notice, in this 5 to 9 box, we rejected it over and over and over. What we did is all these sellers, we squeezed out. We shook them out. We should have pulled back further. We didn't, which is, I'm not complaining about it, and I won't complain about it. So our last target is right here at the middle of 12 hour, right around 913. So let's see where we are. Well, we're at live data. Did we get 913? Not yet, but we're close. This is the midnight. So if we go back and look at our statistics, now with the setup that we have, our midnight chance is 86%. All of these things really started to line up. We just had to apply a little bit of forward logic. Now, it's a bit advanced to be doing stuff like this, but if you look at this market enough and you stare at this data enough, these things really stand out. And if you notice, where are we? If we look at our deviation to the high side, where are we right now? We're in the point of no return zone for me. So there is no way on this green earth that I would try to short this. I wouldn't do it with your money, especially on a setup like this. Does it mean we won't come back down? Nope. Oh, I got to flip over. But does it mean we won't come back down? Here's the deviation zone right here. This is my point of no return, 6 to 6.5. Now we're setting up a move to try to pull, but we got our low early in the hour. So now what we're trying to do, if we put this into quarters, we don't want to see our high here. We want to see it somewhere closer to this 0.75. So we want more of a reach if we can get it to the high side. We want this to be a fake pull and then a pop into this 913, into this other statistical area. Right? Does it mean we'll get it? No. But if we do, yay. And where are we going to get out? Well, at this point, if we really start pulling back and we start breaking middle of hour, we start breaking this previous 930 zone, we start breaking all of this stuff here, it's just going to show a sweep fake out, and that's fine, but I would get out at that point. I mean, we're talking 440 to 913. Hell, we could probably hold it through the high if we wanted to get real crazy. But, I mean, that's almost, was that 400 and some, almost 500 handles, 450 handles. How often are you going to make that many handles? I mean, you could close it right now and be perfectly fine. But I mean, the stats are too good to try not to get that 913. I mean, maybe, well, there we go. I'm out. You know, trade done. So now we're getting closer to the last quarter of this hour where we're going to try to put in the high. We might even get another reach out of this. We'll see. But now we've gotten most of our stat targets. This high is not horrible. It's 76%, I think we said. If we were, let's see. Yeah, 75.47. So 75% that we're still going to go take out this high, which is not a horrible place to be considering we've got this pattern setting up right here. Now, it all depends on how we hold on this trend. Right? There are things that you can do to try to see how these should set up. So in these W and M patterns, if I were to do this and I were to draw this, look at that. How ridiculous is that? There's the mid of this channel. And I say this all the time. These patterns usually, not always, usually set up inside of channels. They usually build a larger channel. And then you'll see that if you go overreach to the high side, this is where you start breaking out to get the rejections, right? Because there's two patterns that'll set up in here. The first one, you get this 707. Usually that's a 113 sweep with a pullback, but we're going to say that this is 61.8. So the 786 is going to be a likely target, as is the 886, because we pushed a bit too far outside of this 618. So we're going to say this thing's really setting up a bat structure more than likely. Now we can start measuring out projections and do all the extra things if we want to. So our rejection, if we go push this again, is going to be this 61.8 to this 70.7 on the projection. And the 100% is above the 78.6. There's all of these things that tell us, even if this was a Gartley, it's going to try to push out at minimum 25,251. Now, does that mean we'll get it today? Probably not. Maybe we will. Who knows? But those were the trades for today. You know, I am not a greedy person. I mean, today I was a bit greedy, but the data was too good to ignore. Like, these are the paydays that in this game I live for. People get scared of these big ranges. And the reason I don't get scared is because I've got this. I've got all of this. And it tells me the probabilities that I need to understand to be confident in whatever I'm trading. Does that mean I'm always right? No. Sometimes I'm wrong. But a majority of the time, as long as I look at this data correctly and I interpret it properly, it works out. And sometimes I get out early, right? I'm out now. I mean, this thing's got a potential to hold this trend and really just rip out into this 886 up here. And if it goes beyond that 886 and takes some more time, we're going to go try to push out this 1618 projection up here. 25,846. If we go do that today, I'd be a bit surprised. But Powell's supposedly speaking right now, so we'll have to see. But, you know, I mean, honestly, I don't have anything else. This was such a great day. I mean, such a great trading day. But these are the days that we live for. So I hope everybody had a great day. I will talk to everybody. I'm going to be gone most of the rest of the week, so I probably won't be making any more videos until next week. But I hope everybody had a great day. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I am going to party for a few days and have a good time with my wife. So I will see everybody when I see you.